Hello there, folks. Nadine Dorries has been largely off the air since her resignation, which later became a non-resignation after she quickly discovered the remainder of the Boris Johnson acolytes weren't ready to jump off the sinking ship just yet. You may have thought during her time away, Nadine would have reflected and perhaps calmed down just a tad, after both being shunned for a peerage and seeing her hero, Boris Johnson, unceremoniously chucked out of Parliament. Well, no, not a bit of it. Her return to the airwaves was a truly astonishing display of denial, anger and conspiracy theory. She was so far off the rails even Tim Montgomerie of Conservative Home was taken aback by her unhinged drivel. Quite honestly, watching this felt like a therapy session where the patient has so much on her mind, a second psychiatrist needed to be called into the room just to take it all in. The way both Tim Montgomerie and Kevin Maguire so patiently remain silent whilst Nadine rants and raves about committees not being fit for purpose really is a sight to behold. Also note how, really, they just seem to be taking the piss out of her. Let's take a look, shall we?
Welcome to Friday Night with Nadine. It's been a quiet week in politics, apart from peerages to Partygate. Before we get into any of that, though, let me introduce my panel. Conservative Home founder Tim Montgomerie and the Mirror's Kevin Maguire. Hello, both.
Hello.
Great
Evening.
to have you here. So, it's just been a bit of a quiet week, really.
Are you okay, Nadine? That's what we should probably be asking you.
I think I'm okay. Yeah. No, I'm fine, actually.
Where are you on the anger scale at the moment? Is it molten, volcanic, vengeful?
Yeah, lava. I'm on molten lava scale. Yeah. No, I'm not on the scale. Actually, I'm not angry. So that's kind of like, and sometimes I think that's quite a kind of like a menopausal, misogynistic type trope. You're a woman and something's gone wrong, therefore you must be angry. But before we talk about me...
Yeah, dear me, that's me.
Sexist.
All right, there we are.
Let's not talk about me. Let's talk about you guys, because you're here to talk about your reaction to the Partygate report. What's your opinion? I'm just going to get it out of the way, Kevin. I'm going to go to you first and get yours.
Yeah, look, Boris Johnson will be forever condemned as a liar. And that is it. That report is absolutely damning. I've read it, digested it, heard the various sides, and it is, for him, that's it. He can do his baby Trump temper tantrums and pretend it's the biggest miscarriage of justice since the Dreyfus affair, the Birmingham 6, the Horizon IT programme at the post office, whatever. But the fact is, a body of his peers, including 4 Conservatives, majority of the 7, found him guilty.
One of those peers was allegedly at an actual party himself, the most senior
What difference does that really make, though, Nadine? Hearing these attacks now on the committee members, but to attack the sort of jury, if you like, in this way, I worry about Conservatives doing that. These institutions are set up by the House of Commons. They've existed for a long time. Conservatives shouldn't be trashing institutions and the reputations of colleagues just because we don't agree with the verdicts that they've come up with.
So I think that's a much bigger question than he's broadening out, actually, Tim, because having watched the way this committee has conducted itself, I think we need to ask the question. Your former employer, Ian Duncan-Smith, went through the same process and told me himself recently about that process and what it was like, and his opinion, which I don't think he'd concur with you right now. And I think we've reached a point now when we have to ask, and we'll go into the substance of what the report's findings are, and I think a lot more is going to come out about this. Have we reached a point now where MPs can any longer judge other MPs? And can MPs, is it right? And I think this committee is a case in point. Is it they've overridden the Met Police's findings? They have held Boris Johnson to account, but they've done this bizarre thing where they have guessed what he thought and guessed what he knew. It's Lord Panic, one of the highest KCs in the land, not a friend to the Conservative Party. He found us to be in contempt over prorogation. A totally neutral man has said himself on numerous occasions that this Privileges Committee is acting as trial, judge and jury, and it's wrong. When its chairwoman which person goes to court and is accused, where the judge decides that person is guilty before the trial even commences. There's so much about it, I'm afraid, Tim, which needs to be questioned. And the biggest question is, and it's a conversation moving forward, can this happen again?
Sorry, Nadine, are you going to let us speak at any point here?
Or should it be a proper legal process? Should there be independent legal people who come in and they conduct this process? Because I don't think MPs can be trusted to do it again.
Nadine, you're not an impartial observer yourself. I mean, you are a fan woman of Johnson.
Please, Kevin, I really object to that. Please, don't call me that. Well, I'm not a fan woman. I'm an ally and I'm a loyal supporter. I'm not a fan woman. But you've just been attacking
I'm not a 16-year-old. You've been attacking other people as partial. You're partial yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, but I wasn't sat on the committee, Kevin.
No, but right.
And I wouldn't be.
You've taken out 2 of the committee. Criticism. What about the other 5?
So can I just say, Kevin, I would never have agreed to sit on that committee because I am biased and I am impartial. So I would never have sat on that committee for that reason.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think questions around some of the statements that Bernard Jenkins made about how, I wish we had some here now, actually. Some of the comments he made during the hearing of that committee about people who attend, about the responsibility they had to not do that, to show leadership, to act in a way where everybody else had to act. The comments and the criticisms that I made when he was doing the very same thing, allegedly, himself.
Yeah, this is becoming a giant conspiracy there. That report relies on evidence from Martin Reynolds and Jack Boyd, who worked in number 10.
They guessed what was going on inside Boris's head.
Who were saying that Johnson's Prime Minister, you can't say all the rules and guidance were followed. You just can't say it, and he still said it.
But I'm generally in favour of voters deciding these things at elections rather than committees like this Privileges Committee. And Boris Johnson, was held accountable. He was removed as Tory leader long before this committee reported. He was removed by MPs who felt that he was no longer able to win them an election, which is a way, between elections, voters can have influence.
And how right were they? He were 5 points behind in the polls. We're about 20 today and have been consistently. How right were those Conservative MPs, Tim?
Well, I don't think Boris's situation was getting better. Boris's situation as leader was deteriorating because he kept saying things that the vast majority of voters didn't believe to be true. Those assurances he gave on Partygate, they were incredible. And we did find out in the committee's report, he told the Commons that he had reassurances that the Downing Street was acting within the rules.
And he did.
But he gave the impression that these were authoritative sort of assurances from the civil servants. Actually, they were from casual observations from party political advisors. It was things like that which I think showed that the Prime Minister was being casual about the arrangements for governing social distance during the time he was Prime Minister. But again,
you just said something that's wrong. The key advisor was the Director General of the Civil Service. So he wasn't a political. He was political, but he was also a DG in the Civil Service.
Not on the compliance with general party
That was
rules.
where he took his advice. And I think even Sue Gray advised him. Well, actually, I'm not going to go into the weeds of this. So...
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah. That's right, Nadine. You endlessly rant and rave, barely allowing your guests to get a logical word in edgeways. And then you cut off the discussion because you don't want to get into the weeds. It's as if Nadine has forgotten she is a member of Parliament, because this is completely despicable conduct. If she went into the Commons and trashed not only a committee, but was naming individuals on that committee, she would be rightfully chucked out. But apparently it's perfectly acceptable behaviour on a Murdoch-owned television channel. I cannot help but recall occasions where MPs were asked to withdraw comments because there is a certain level of behaviour expected. I recall Ian Blackford accusing Theresa May of lying, and every last self-righteous Tory on the green benches acted like Blackford had chucked a petrol bomb her way. Yet we have seen how this new wave of vile Tory believe they can behave in any way they see fit in media appearances. You have to bear in mind, Boris Johnson is now gone, so they aren't passionately defending him for any reason related to parliamentary procedure. This is just a bewildering band of sycophants going rogue off their own backs. It really does show how much Sunak has lost control of the party. And he doesn't have the spine to discipline these morons who are almost entirely making his already pathetic Conservative Party look even worse. As for Nadine, expect her to carry on this for the foreseeable future, perhaps even until the end of time, and expect her guests to keep looking at her like she has completely lost the plot. But it does appear she is advocating for an IPSA-style behavioural standards body, which is completely absurd, because it isn't the behaviour of Boris Johnson which has led her to this conclusion. It isn't Boris Johnson misleading the House of Commons that has led her to this conclusion. It's the behaviour of the people investigating him, the committee Parliament instructed to look into whether he had misled Parliament. Those are the people that have prompted Nadine Dorries to reach the conclusion an external behavioural standards body would be appropriate for Parliament. I do wonder, however, what this external standards body would make of sitting MPs taking to the airwaves to trash both Parliament and their colleagues. I wouldn't expect they would look upon it too favourably, but I also wouldn't expect Nadine Dorries to see the rank hypocrisy in her own argument, because she's so arrogant, she likely believes her own conduct as a parliamentarian is beyond reproach, when, quite frankly, to the rest of us, it is despicable and deranged. Please resign. Cheers for watching. All the best.